Okay, here's a video of how I'm changing my rear right and left struts. It's a 06 Audi A8L D3 premium. Well, I can't display it right now because I got the car up and I'll know what happens when I turn it on like that. But what I did was I went into the settings for the car. I put it on lift mode all the way up at the top, and then turned on the jack on, so it's jacking the car up. And I lifted it up with a always with the jack stand. But before I did that, I broke loose the 17 millimeter lug nuts on here with just the tire wrench. I always do that, just quarter turn, or even less, just break it. And then my big thing is I like to use these, there we go. I like to use these 1/4 inch drive deals, 1/4 inch impact. Probably recharged that thing 3 weeks ago. But what you'll do, first thing is remove this inner fender well. Don't be afraid of it. It has 7 10 millimeter nylock bolts on it. Oh, by the way, I always get one of these things from Florida or California or Texas or somewhere where there's not really much rust. Anyhow, you'll have 1, 2, 3 of the 10 millimeter nylocks, and then there's 3 back here. 1, 2, 3 on the back side. And then you'll have, it's a 25 for these 3 are 25 Torex, and that one's like a 30. I don't know why they do that, but it's only 30 here, and then there's 3 more 25s. So I got all that there. We don't really need to disconnect the sway bar, and I'll tell you why in a minute. But what a lot of people do is they pull these 10 millimeter, pull the 10 millimeter he's directly overhead. Those are easy. They just come loose with the 10 millimeter, both the brake line, and these. Here's the other thing. What you want to have something that's not available in every parts store. You have to look around for it. Buy it when you see it. Just throw it, in your toolbox. You always, on an Audi, especially since this is aluminum engine, aluminum transmission, aluminum body, aluminum frame, the brakes are aluminum. It's almost all aluminum. And with these steel bolts, you always just put a chase of this on the threads. It just keeps everything from corroding. It has a little bit of security, not much. It's very light to break it, but penetrates. It keeps all the threads nice, and you can tell it was on there from the factory. They just spray this stuff on. Stuff's toxic. Don't get it in your mouth. Anyhow, so next step was removing the 18 millimeter bolt on the bottom, which is pretty easily done. It's in there pretty tight, but just get you 18 millimeter. I like these Craftsman with the ratchet deals on it. I actually keep 2 of them. I have the stubby set too. Yeah. And then here's my 10 millimeter that I use to break loose all those other ones. And then a combination like 10 millimeter. I buy all these. I got a 1/2 inch, 3/8, and 1/4 inch drive, and it's only 10 millimeter. And then I just, do a collection of the Torexes and that. The driver's side strut is super easy to get to all three of those bolts at the top. You'll see them. I didn't even need a U-joint on it. I just went straight on with that. And you notice looking at it, there's a gasket on here. The other strut I bought, as a rebuild, doesn't have the gasket. But it's a factory shock on there. And this looks actually nicer than the one. This car was stuck away in a South Florida gated community garage. It's almost perfect. It had a couple drives through the wintertime up in a snowy area, but that's about the only soul it's ever seen. But what I did was I broke this loose and that to pull this off. And then once I did that, then the air just came flying out here, and I by hand could lift this up and kind of pry it up and over there. I could pry it up and over there. So on the reinstall, I do essentially the same thing. On the new one, I remove this, and I was kind of surprised they charge it with air. So you'll hear some air blow out of there. I don't know if I'm going to reuse that one or not. I haven't decided yet. The other one, it came with another one of those split kits, and I just don't feel right like changing it out on my own. But the other one's holding air. After I did reassemble all that, I hit it with a little bit of this just to get around the threads so it'll dry overnight and not vibrate out or anything. That's a nice thing about the green. It kind of keeps that kind of movement loose. But this side has taken me a grand 20 minutes to tear apart. The other side was more like 45, but I got all the right tools now. The other side has this sensor that sits and the hardest bolt to get, it's got this, it must be for the fuel tank, like an impact sensor or something. And it kind of is just sitting there. If you could get that off, then it might make it a lot easier getting up at those three bolts. So these three bolts that are up in the top, these are 13 millimeter. It's 18 millimeter for the bottom bolt, 10 for everything else, 25 Torex, and had 130 Torex. And then there's a couple of these push pins. Forgot to mention that. Don't know where this came from, but it's kind of cool. But you just push the pin in, and it pops it loose, and then you can pull the grommet out. But this is ready to reinstall. So that's all you do is this pin will be pushed all the way in. You'll go to where it's flush, and then keep on pushing it out. And when you reinstall the liner, it goes in real fast. Everything reinstalls real fast on this. The only complication I've found has been dealing with that. So, wish me luck, and I wish you luck. And again, 17 millimeter on the wheel lug nuts. Always use a jack stand, and long live Audi.